We are going to do a combo platter of somatics and exercise today. So a little bit of everything and a lot of nothing. So let's start with breath. And we'll start with breath on the floor. So I've just been hearing a lot from different people that they've been having a lot of back issues and a lot of soreness and a lot of tightness and a lot of holding patterns. So this is going to be, we're going to work with a little bit of free flow, a lot of rolling, and some mobility, but really gentle mobility, really for hydrating tissue. This will not be a class about getting good lines and strength building and doing that kind of stuff, but a class about really landing into your body, finding your mushiness, right? It's not, oh, now I'm all mushy and I don't have any muscles anymore. It's more like I'm mushy and now I've hydrated my fascia and my body is ready to process the things that I need to process, whatever that is, food, life, that kind of stuff. So let's use the inhale arms up and exhale down that we normally do standing, but just inhale, let the arms float up, rising really easily, opening up, and then exhale, bringing them back down. You can go in any tempo. Your breath may be at a different tempo than mine. Inhale, filling up, expanding without any right or wrong way to do this. Just feeling into it, letting the arms rise and fall. They rise and then they fall. And then they rise and then they fall. And noticing into the point where the hands are right up in that center point, that there's like a free flow of the weight just dropping down into your body. So it's almost effortless to hold the arms up there because the weight is just dropping down. And finding that point where there's like the least amount of effort, and then you have to control it as you lower down, but just finding that point in the middle and noticing the easiness, the ease of that movement when you get to that point. If it's easy, maybe it's not, maybe it's hard. So it's like you're just kind of slowly moving up and down. And maybe the breath changes. Maybe the arms are just moving and the breath becomes more free, doing whatever it wants to do, but you're just letting your arms move up and down. Inviting any tension in the back of the neck, in the back of the shoulders, in the back of the ribs, in the back of any part of your back, your lower back, your butt, to just soften and melt. You can imagine that your arms are attached to some helium balloons. They're gently going up and gently coming down so that there's some support. Imagining this external support. But you could also imagine that external support is just coming from the space around you, that you really do have that support from the spaciousness, from the planet, the gravitational pull, and from the water in your body, and from the breath in your body, and from the air outside of your body. And then let's come up to the top and just play with internally and externally rotating your hands. So really gentle and soft, and letting that internal and external rotation come down into the tripod of your scapula. It's not really a tripod, but it's got a lot of knobs and pointy parts, aspects that are reaching out. So maybe it's kind of like a tripod. Letting yourself move your arms so that you can feel your scapula underneath you. You can bend your elbows. Do this in any way that feels good. You can do 2 separate moves or the same move on each side. So it can be synchronous or asynchronous. Symmetrical is really what I mean to say, or asymmetrical. But doing it in a very gentle way. And imagining that as you're doing it, you're tuning into the fluidity of the bone of your scapula. So not that the bone is fluid, but there is a sort of fluid inside the bone marrow, a very intelligent fluid. So tuning into that, it's very sort of slow and earthy. But if you can feel into that, and any movement with the arms is fine. Allowing your body weight to just sink deeper and deeper into the floor as you're playing with this arm scapula relationship. if we wanted to really name some things, we could say your pinky, your collarbone, your scapula, your rotator cuff. There are some names. Maybe that's helpful, maybe not. But playing with this, or your fingertips into your heart, we could play with that relationship. The blood flowing out to this distal edge of your body, your fingertips, and then returning. So it's flowing out along the arterial path, feeding, nourishing, oxygenating, and then it's returning, eliminating waste. And inside your heart is being hugged by the movement of your arms and by your lungs. Just breathing into that, really relaxed and easy. You can imagine that you are either underwater expressing the seagrasses in your arms, or maybe you're conducting a big orchestra, or maybe both. Maybe it's a seagrass orchestra. Allowing yourself the timelessness of that underwater world, the suspension. Maybe there are some like internal currents and waves happening. Or maybe the music you're playing has some rises and falls, some crescendos, some arpeggios, who knows? Maybe there's some excitement in there somewhere. So if there is, you can also start to let your body join into the movement. So gentle rolling from side to side, if that feels good. Maybe it's your whole torso, also known as your trunk by some people. Maybe it's your head and neck, or maybe it's your legs falling from side to side. But inviting this flow that you've sort of started in the arms, chest, lungs, and heart to play out in your whole body in any way that feels good, in any way that's delicious. Surrendering into the floor, yielding into the floor, softening the inner body, letting the soft animal of your body be very like cozy and comfy, nestling into the floor. The seagrass orchestra playing the most gentle music in the world, and every cell in your body being expressed within that seagrass orchestra. So it can, like my leg has gotten into the mix, it can become more exploratory. And I'm probably going to add music. At some point, I think I'm going to make some of my own music, because there's certain things I feel like would be really good in here. To play with the sound of waves or heartbeats. But there's a freedom to not having any music, that you can make your own soundscape in your movement. Letting your movement be delicious, soft. It might be sometimes fun to really push into the floor or get more activated. Feel free to add that if that feels good. Otherwise, very soft and flowy, pouring your body around, hydrating the cells and the tissue. Maybe there's some reaching here and there, and maybe there's some gathering in, coming back into yourself. Letting it be what your body needs. Slowing down, softening. Coming in for a landing. And if you have a whole story of things that you're worrying about that are going on, maybe like there's the subterranean chatter, which may not be subterranean, it might be right there at the surface. But just think of that as a flow also. So that's just a flow of movement in your mind. And you don't need to grab onto it. You can just let it flow through, like the water, sea grasses, and the orchestra, just letting it play however it wants to play, and giving it space. You don't need to shut it down. You can let that stream take up some space Just try not to get contracted around it. Although I will say that sometimes when I am in that like monkey chatter place with my mind going, oh no, I try to think of something that feels really good or smells really good or gives me a sense of comfort and tune into the comfort and the joy or the comfort and the ease away from the contraction. So we're just inviting any stuck rigidities to just melt away without any work, just letting go, going into the flow of being. Maybe it's good to move all the limbs. Maybe it's good to flow around in your torso. It's really up to you. What do you need right now? Can you find the wave patterns that are expressing in your body? Allowing them movement, allowing them freedom. And a really interesting thought as I've been reading the Lauri Nemetz book, the Myofascia in Form and Function, is that and this is something that I knew, but she stated it really nicely. In our fascia, the holding pattern, the forming organ of our whole body, which can be wispy and filmy or really dense like packing tape, but there's a lot of fluid in there, right? There's a lot of extracellular matrix, there's collagen, there's all sorts of glycoaminoglycans. But within that structure, there's both free water, free fluid, and there's bound fluid. So the bound fluid may be kind of contained in like a gel substance. And that stuff is actually really strong, really integrated. So we can find within our movement, we can maybe move around between these sort of freer flows where anything is happening and it's free. And maybe the more bound flows where there's more maturity and containment. So the free flow is kind of like, oh, it could go anywhere. It's like a child running around. And then the bound flow is more like, oh, it's the adult that really knows how to do something. There's the specificity in that movement. And we can move back and forth between those flows, like even in an instant of like, oh, it's contained, or oh, it's free and easy. I mean, free and easy, free and hard, free and whatever. So letting yourself find it. If it feels like, oh, I just want to do this stretch, or I just need to do this thing, go ahead and do that. Especially if you showed up thinking this was going to be an exercise class. It is an exercise class, but it's a different kind of exercise class. Exercising in this really deep sort of nervous system fascia way, right? So our nervous system is routed out through the fascia because the fascia is the organ of form. And not only that, it's also sort of made out of the fascia, right? The linings of our nerves are, what is that? And even I think within the nerves, there's structure, right? So that would also be fascia. Yeah, and when I think, so I've come, like I was really thinking in terms of the fluids and the waters before, and that flow was one thing. The fluid flow of wateriness or liquid. But the flow of the nervous system is something else. So you can, if it feels interesting, tune into the flow of the nervous system, right? This sort of maybe more fire element flow. This instant communication flow, currents of energy, currents of information. When I tune into the nervous system flow, first today, there's a sense of lightness. It's like this instant communication. There's also like a wholeness to that for me. It's like, oh, the whole system knows. The whole system is communication. And as we move around, we're also like letting the nerves, as they're moving through the fascia, get this little gentle movement, right? So again, we're increasing the lack of stuckness by just moving, rolling, letting go, allowing the inner body to have these sliding surfaces so our nerves can easily route through the fascia. And it's this information system that's moving back and forth, right? The fascia is giving the nerves information. What's happening? How am I moving? Oh, come on. My information system just went beyond my own body there, right? So yeah, so going into these, awareness practices and these movement practices doesn't mean we have to shut out the whole world. We can still receive what's going on. We're not suddenly like mesmerized into a trance, although it may feel sort of trance-like, but we can still be very aware of what's happening in the outer world. We can still be accessible, or the world can be accessible to us. Or we can go into the trance, or we can go so deep that it's almost like we're contained within our own system. At the same time, our own system is happening within the world, right? The one thing that is certain is that we are born from the earth, of the earth. We are earthlings, and we will be in this body for our whole life, as far as we know. And so much information about our existence isn't just stuck in our brain, it's in our body. It's like, oh, the air on our skin. So coming into the senses, right? What are you noticing in your senses? We've been working a lot with proprioception and feeling our bodies and kinesthetic awareness. What smells are there? What's the temperature like? What are the colors around you? If you're interested in that, you may be very flow oriented in the fluids or in the nervous system, but letting yourself take in the surroundings as well, if that feels okay. And you may just be rolling around doing your own thing, quite happy there. And I am going to add music because it just makes it so much more fun. I just yeah, Squeaky Deaks is out there meowing around. He came in, but he was not thrilled by the activities in here. Oh, I got to open the door again and just grab him. What's going on? What's going on? All right. We're going to go with this. This is Jeff Gersh. Oh, and there's the kitty. And this song is called No Room. I'm not sure what album it's from, but it's in Ambient Fields. Letting yourself roll around, receiving the sound. the sound to land in you too. To offer another idea, because we talked about the sea grasses being underwater and allowing ourselves to move with that, but I also just want to throw this image, and that is being in a weightless environment, being in outer space, being like an astronaut. Like, what would that be like? Imagining that lightness. What if the density of your body just kind of opened up just a little bit? So there's just a little more space between everything, a little more space between every cell, a little more space in each joint. What would happen? Spacious body, inner body. This lightness with a tendency to rise. Inviting that sense of expansion and freedom into the space within your body, right? It doesn't need to be all condensed and contracted. There can be breath and spaciousness, openness, lightness and ease. And this exploration can happen. And my camera just went off. Either on the floor or all off the floor. Any way that feels interesting to follow. Playing with these ideas of free flow, bound flow, suspension. With no rules of how you're supposed to move, letting go of the rules, breaking all the rules, allowing movement to just be an open field of possibility. we'll just leave that open. You can come and go at will. I feel like this music actually has more bound flow in it. So it's easy to find that push. There's sort of more depth or density to it. So maybe using that. But I also feel like there's a sort of, there is a sort of nervous system buzz to this one. Inviting your body to move in any way that feels nourishing. Sometimes that's more activated when we need to release energy. Sometimes we need to free up some stuckness. I think there's an interesting thing about releasing energy. Sometimes like we need to offload when there's an excess buildup, but that then clears the flow so that then energy can flow as opposed to being kind of buildy stuck. So sometimes like really releasing energy can free energy so that there's more capacity for movement and flow. However, sometimes this work starts to take you so deep into what's going on with your nervous system. Sometimes it can also be like, whoa, started to open some of this stuff up. You're opening up these Pandora boxes of things that you've maybe avoided. So it can also be like, wow, now I need to rest. Now I need to let my system just process that. And that can take time. This is not quick, easy, fast work. This is sort of deep, long-term, I want to say life support really, but it's diving into something deeper than the normal sort of fitness exercise. Allowing whirlpools, eddies, spirals to happen in your movement. Ripples and waves, tentacle-like movement. maybe finding some lightness in the breath, lightness in the air. Opening up your realm of possibilities to all the space around you. So it's not just, oh, it all is contained right here in the front, but maybe there's interesting stuff in the back space or down low, up in the diagonals. Freeing up your head-tail connection. You could imagine that you're carving through the space with your body, with your limbs. Curvilinear shapes. I am now covered in cat hair. And so is this room from all that white kitty attention. It's pretty rare that that cat needs so much attention. So when he does, it's kind of a treat. Usually he doesn't like to be picked up or touched very much. And sometimes, like as we're moving, it's easy to feel like a muscle or a crunchiness or an injury. See if you can just imagine that that is just, it's almost like you can imagine that you're moving on a different energetic pattern. So like if I'm feeling this thing in my shoulder, I could be like, oh, I'm just going to feel into that and fix it. But I can also kind of go like, I'm just going to move in the air. I'm just going to move in the space and not really tune into that injury or that tension pattern, so that I'm kind of operating at a different level, a different strata. And allowing yourself to move in any way with free flow, like let go of any self-judgment. This doesn't need to look good. This doesn't need to be beautiful movement. It can be whatever it is. And it can have this strength and ringing qualities or really light, floaty, easy stuff. So whatever feels interesting to play with. And it can go back and forth. It can change instantly. Yeah, you can think of the movement just coming from flows, like, oh, there's a flow of movement that's moving up and out there, as opposed to, I'm going to move my arm and do this thing, but allowing the flow to sort of take over the mechanical model. So the flow model is moving from the air, it's moving from the fire energy of your nervous system or your heart, the electrical energy of your body. It's moving from the fluids, it's moving from the blood flow. It's not moving from the bones and the muscles doing their things. It's moving from the alive awakeness of the fascia. As we just connect the whole system into this really integrated whole. The whole system into the whole, inviting all parts of you to be present and to be loved. Even the yucky, gooky ones, they can be there too. I'm going to take it back down to the floor. and probably just go for like a couple more minutes. So I'm going to go down to the floor just to let my body sort of receive all the things that happened. I'll probably still be moving. You're welcome to be in stillness. Oh, it's covered in cat hair. Definitely gonna have to vacuum. The kitty, of course, who doesn't like to be touched very much, does not like to be brushed. So, breathing, landing, allowing, and receiving. As you slow down and come into yourself more, maybe try closing your eyes and seeing what's online for you. I'm actually gonna fade out the music. That was Jeff Gersh, Ambient Fields. Yeah, giving yourself a few moments, a few breaths to come into an open awareness and notice what you notice. What is happening in your body? What are you sensing? What are you feeling? If we really want to go non-dual about it, who's having this experience? Although I'm more interested in what is the experience? What are the details of the experience? Not in a verbal, I can answer that way, but in a sense way. What am I feeling? What's happening now? What's online? And letting yourself tune back to the breath. Maybe it's deep breath. Maybe it's deep but light. Meaning not so much volume. Maybe there's some big volume breath, whatever you need. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope your day goes well, or your night, or wherever it is. I'm going to close out the live stream, but first I'm going to say that I am teaching again today at 4 Eastern time. It will be a somatic inquiry practice. And then I'm teaching on Wednesday at 11:30 New York time on the Alembic link. So that can be found on the Alembic